Hello, all of you beautiful, worthy women. Right, maybe that first piece got cut off. So hello, all of you beautiful, worthy women. I'm Ahomna. I am dropping in with you to share a transmission here, going a little bit deeper into our 4-stage path of reclaiming worth in our body. And specifically, we're going to be diving into some of the important physiological aspects of our body, clearing this virus of unworthiness. So if you are here with me now live, say hello in the chat. If you are watching the replay, drop #replay in the comments below. Feel free to welcome other women to watch this video as well inside the group. So let us dive in. To just briefly recap to start this video, our 4-step path of reclaiming our self-worth is the first step, recognizing mentally that all stories of unworthiness are lies, that we were sold by someone who was afraid of our light. And this is often before we were old enough to know any differently. And this is often the step that most people focus on in the rebuilding of confidence, rebuilding of self-worth. It's a lot of different mental body practices to shift out of the mindset. And the majority of people find that these don't actually create the deep, profound results of fully eradicating the story from one's life, because the next 2 steps are essential to integrate, to have it be fully embodied. Step 2 is what we're going to dive into a little bit deeper today. And I apologize if you hear any background noise. There is painting happening at my house. You may hear some what is it called, ladder movements and things like that. Hopefully it's not too loud in the background. That being said, step 2 is taking this recognition and systematically clearing it from the cellular memory of our body. This means clearing it from our muscles, from our tissues, from our bones, from our blood. And if it is not cleared from our body intelligence, right, this is so important, this story will keep showing up and you will keep believing it, even if you know it is a lie, because your body is still in resonance with it. Your body is still holding the memory that says, I need this belief that I'm unworthy because it's not safe for me to actually activate all of my light. We're going to go deeper into that in a moment. I want to just recap steps 3 and 4 here from the live Worthy Woman Masterclass. Step 3 we talked about quite a bit. This is clearing and resetting the energy body, specifically the 9 palaces of your heart. And an additional for women, since we are all women here, it is clearing it from the heart-womb connection, that if you remember from the masterclass, it activates our ability for our heart and our kidneys to communicate, which must happen because our kidneys and our hearts together, when communicating and functioning in a cohesive harmony, awaken our ability to allow our destiny, which is our true worth, to live and reside and move through our body. The 4th step here, and this is the biggest one I've seen, is that we must be witnessed lovingly by a group of others as you go through this process, and having them reflect back to you your true worth. Because these stories and this virus is a collective virus, right, is one that we all share. It is one that we have all been protecting in our bodies for a very, very, very long time. We get to be, and it's an essential part that I have seen is missing. And when it is missing, it becomes much more difficult to really release this pattern, because it is a collective story, and it is a story that we also pick up in this lifetime, even though it is one from many lifetimes, through other people reflecting back to us through experiences with others. So a big and important part of actually healing and receiving a clearing and a transmutation and alchemy of this virus of unworthiness requires us to actually be witnessed as we are moving out of that pattern, witnessed in steps 1, 2, and 3 by a group of others who are choosing and even if it triggers them in moments, going to allow themselves to say yes to you reclaiming their worth, because that also heals them too. So let us go deeper into step 2 today in this live, because it's really important to understand some of the deeper mechanics of our body and how our body holds, right? The soma of our body holds this information of unworthiness, this pattern, this program, right? Because our body is really the foundation that the energy gets to move through. So when we talk about clearing it from our muscles, right, there are some key important muscles. One of them, the biggest and most important one really to clear this pattern, especially for women, is the psoas muscles. And this is the largest muscle group in our body. It's called the muscle of our soul, right? And this is really where we store deep trauma and deep wounds that have led us to believe that we are not worthy of love. And they store deep emotions that need to be unlocked and freed in order for us to fully realize our true worth. Because until they are freed from that muscular group, and the reason they're stored here, and for those of you who don't know, your psoas is a massive muscular group. It goes all the way from your thoracic vertebrae 12, so this is like up in your mid-back, and it comes down the back and the front side, and then it weaves into your pelvic muscles. So the implications of this will show up. It will create tension in your shoulders, it will create tension in your neck, upper back, it will create tension in your lower back, and it will create tension in your pelvis. Now this one for women is even more important, because if there is any sexual trauma, and that could be rape, or that could be saying yes when your body really was a no, in moments where we weren't as conscious in our body as we are choosing to be today. That goes directly into your psoas muscles. So those muscles are responsible for our posture, they're responsible for how we're moving, how we are able to, lift our leg up and do our open hip flexors, and how we move powerfully. It allows us to activate our glutes, which are the most powerful muscles in our body, right? So this is our power. And they call it the soul of your muscles because it really connects you into your core. And if we think of our core as a solid foundation for our worth, for our power, for our presence, for who we truly are in this world, then we must address what is happening in our psoas. So our psoas, when we are in a fight or flight experience, we tense them, right? They grow hard and tense. This is why a lot of women especially will have tension and an inability to open up their hips fully, or why hip opening postures in yoga and things like that will be a little bit more difficult if there is a lot of trauma that someone has endured in their body, especially the sexual trauma. Right? So when there's sexual trauma, this muscle will tighten up during penetration, will actually create pain during intercourse, or even self-pleasure, or even just turn on, there can be some pain. If the muscles get turned on and it's tense, it's saying, this isn't safe, right? This is not, I need to tense up here. So this major muscle group creates all different experiences of tension throughout the body, of being closed down. And it is a protection mechanism, right? It is ultimately trying to protect your core, protect your innocence, and to create a hardened wall around it. But ultimately, it also then creates a wall from us being able to access our worth. And if we think about sexual trauma and things of this nature, where things happen to our bodies, to our spirit, we took things into our bodies that now we know we're not actually serving our highest alignment, right? We close down, we dim that so that we don't bring and attract that energy in our lives again in the future until we have cleared it. And what that does, though, it also shuts us down to our innate magnetism to attract into our lives our destiny and what is truly meant for us, right? So it's super important that we address the musculature, specifically the psoas muscles here, which are allowing us to really cleanse and process and release deep, deep cellular memory of trauma that relates to us feeling worthy of receiving love. So the next major piece here is our bones, right? And we don't necessarily think about our bones when we're thinking about like clearing unworthiness. Yet it's so, so, so important that we do realize that until we have cleared this information or transmuted this information down to the depth of our bone, right? This is your bones, your skeletal system. This is your foundations. But we actually have to go even deeper than just our bones into the substance inside our bones called our bone marrow, right? So inside your bones, you have this luscious plasma energy that is made of stem cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and it's really the plasma of your body that has a really deep and important role in affecting your worth and your value. So when our bone marrow is affected, and this is affected by things that are happening in our blood, and it represents familial, genetic, ancestral patterns, right? So parents who did not feel worthy, grandparents who did not feel worthy, right? People throughout your ancestry, that information is stored in your bone marrow, and it's then builds your skeletal system, builds the foundation of how your body moves through this world, right? This is the core essence that gets to be transmuted where we have to go address this story. So when the bone marrow is affected, it creates a profound and absolute sense of devaluation, a devaluation conflict, where thoughts of my life doesn't have meaning, or I'm not worthy of love, or, you know, does it really matter if I live or not, or, you know, will I be able to step into this big, beautiful mission when like no one in my family has amounted to anything, or I'm the first woman to go to school or to start her own business or to whatever, right? It cuts us deep in the deepest part of our being, and the disconnection from source that says like, will I ever really live my purpose? Am I even worthy of my purpose or worthy of my mission? Or, you know, really the essence, like the languaging is am I worthy of love? So in our bone marrow then, right, in the plasma, and it's so important because your plasma triggers the creation of the blood cells to actually produce more red blood, right, more white blood. So it allows for you to actually create more blood. And if you remember from the masterclass, we talked about the importance of blood in our experience of our worth in our body. And we're just going to recap on that for a moment, just very briefly about, you know, your blood holds your spirit into your body, your soul into your body, right? This is, we get this wisdom from the Chinese medicine traditions that have been studied for thousands and thousands of years, right? So in the Chinese medicine tradition, they believe that all disease is a spiritual, energetic problem or challenge or complication, right? Or dis-ease. Everything is about the spirit. So our blood allows the soul or spirit to have a home in your body. And your blood is specifically radiating the exact frequency that your soul recognizes as home, right? Your blood is the exact frequency that your soul recognizes, and that is how it knows that your body is the body that it is meant to be living in. When we do not have enough healthy blood in our body, we do not have a strong, stable foundation or home for our soul to live in. And what ends up happening is we fragment then parts of our soul, right? Only parts of our soul can come into our body. For a lot of people, a very small fraction of, you know, in the greater collective, not necessarily the women that are in this group, you know, who are really choosing to do this work. We're talking about the greater collective here, right? That is very much ego dominated, right? Where very little spirit is coming through, very little soul is able to live in their bodies. And especially for women, where we have 20% of women on the planet have anemia, and that's just from a Western medicine. We're not even looking at the, Eastern side of the globe where we have blood deficiency, right? 20%, that's just overall and through allopathic medicine, versus 2% of men who have blood deficiency, right? So this is again speaking to that attack on the feminine, because we all know that when women's souls fully come into their body, as we discussed in the masterclass, we become very supernatural. We become very intuitive, become very psychic. We're able to know and guide the systems, the structures, the information of the planet forward in big, powerful, beautiful ways, right? And we want people to be united, to live together, to work together in harmony and peace, right? So for people with anemia or blood deficiency or anything happening within their blood, and this is why I have, recently invested in this amazing microscope. I'm so excited to start researching and studying blood, because, I navigated through this journey throughout my walk-in process to actually change the blood of this body to be able to be the blood of a Hamna and no longer the blood of the soul that was living in this body before I came in, meant that I basically had to go into such an extreme state of blood deficiency to rebuild the true blood that my soul could come into and recognize. So it's also a piece of the walk-in process and spiritual initiation that involves our blood changing its chemistry, changing its frequency. But then when we actually want to rebuild our blood, right, we also know in Chinese medicine that our mind controls our blood as well. So when we have thoughts of unworthiness or these patterns of thinking that we're not good enough or smart enough, or that, procrastination or self-defeat or whatever it is, that all comes down to, we all know it all comes back to this feeling of unworthiness, right? Those thinking patterns influence our blood, influence the health of our blood. And we can actually see it. I know someone who used to do these practices with live blood where he would speak really poorly to his body, take a read of his live blood, and then he would sit in meditation, speak really positively to his blood for 30 minutes, and he would take, his name is Artemis, he would take a reading of his live blood afterwards, and the blood samples would be completely different. The first blood would be looking pretty toxic, right? The second blood would be looking much more healthy, much more vibrant, much more radiant. And this speaks to what we know about water, right? We know that from when we speak into our water changes the crystalline structure. And when we speak love and gratitude into our water, because the blood is primarily water, right? So we can understand then why this is so important. So we are influencing the mental body and creating this, and then we can realize, wow, if I've lived for 20, 30, 40, 50, however many years that I've been on this planet with this story that I'm not worthy of love, or I'm not worthy of my dreams, or I'm not worthy of whatever it is, then, and that story has been running inside of me for a very long time, consciously and unconsciously, well then, can I imagine what that must have done to my blood? Can I imagine what that must have done to the radiance of my blood? And our radiance, especially for women, is so important because we are the magnetic polarity, right? We are magnetizing and pulling everything in. Well, when our radiant energy of our blood is not vital and alive and able to even pull the full spectrum of our soul into our body, we become less physically magnetic. When we are less physically magnetic, we don't get to draw in all that is actually here for us. And we end up in experiences of lack and limitation, or not having the opportunities, or not having the partnership that feels so so soul-worthy partnership relationship dynamics. Okay? So it's a very important for so many different spectrums. And going back to our bone marrow then, right? Our bone marrow, when we're rebuilding our blood, is an important piece, because this devaluation conflict is held in our bone marrow ancestrally, right? Past forward. And then that creates our blood and informs how our blood's being made. You'll start to see, if you really put the pieces together of what I'm sharing here, why a lot of the work that people do in these, personal development courses and in these, uh, what is it called? Like mindfulness trainings and self-development and confidence, empowerment, and all these different things, all these different practices won't create the deep, deep shifts, right? You'll still notice a story coming up over here and very subtly sneaking in over here. And you'll feel like, okay, things are starting to move. I'm reaching that, what is it, the fourth palace, where I'm in some wealth, which means that my needs are being met, right? Once our needs are being met, this is when it becomes very difficult to actually keep moving forward through the palaces. This is why we have to get into step 3, which is clearing the palaces, because it can be very easy to get complacent once we have wealth. And wealth, remember, to our heart means that we have everything we need to survive, right? So everyone that's watching this, you're watching this on Wi-Fi. You're probably watching this on a fancy smartphone that was not cheap. You are probably watching this in the comfort of your home and in a country where you feel safe. And inside of your fridge right now is probably fresh juices, organic produce, local meats, raw milk, whatever it is, that are a sign that you are well fed. Right? You probably even have a fancy water filter that is getting you clean water, right? And you have clothes in your closet that dress you and make you feel good. Okay? So your needs are met. You are wealthy. If you are here in this group watching this video, you are wealthy. And it's very important that we recognize that. And then we have to see why we get complacent at our wealth, right? Because once everything that we need is provided for us, we actually have to activate something deeper within us to keep us evolving forward. We have to go to the deepest place within us. We have to go to our bone marrow. We have to go into our blood. We have to change these patterns there. Because for a lot of us, chances are, there's parts of our family that aren't in their wealth, right? Or we grew up in experiences where we didn't necessarily have clean clothes or fresh food available, right? So we know that those stories are in our ancestry, in our genetics, in potentially our direct parent line, and in our own bodies from the first part of our lives in our childhood experience, right? So once we get to that space of now we are in wealth, all of our needs are met, we can finally like relax a little bit, not stress, chill, do the thing, get in touch with the first layers of our worth, right? But then to actually grow and evolve to that 9th palace of prosperity, where we have more than what we could ever possibly need, and we're able to truly give back from a cup that's overflowing, that takes going to the deepest places within us, where we don't just transform our conscious mind, right? Where we don't just transform what's on the surface. We have to go to the depth, the core of our being. We have to heal and rebuild and transform and alchemize our bone marrow and our blood and rebuild healthy, vital, abundant, radiant field of energy in our body as women. And this takes a committed practice to knowing how do I connect with my bone marrow, right? How do I rebuild my blood? How do I actually work at these levels where I can't see, unless you've ever broken a bone, you don't see your bones. For most of us, we, really can't even feel them, except for maybe parts of your body where you can get in, but you're still feeling a layer on top of your bone. So this is like going into the deepest unconscious places within us and initiating change. So we can do that through our mental body, through hypnosis, right? Through journeying in trance states and things like that, but to actually go to where these are stored in our body. We have to know the practices that take us there. We have to know how to get in to our bone marrow, how to breathe and rebuild new bone marrow, fresh blood, and how to become radiant so that more of our soul can come into our body. Because the more of your soul that comes into your body, and I'm telling you that if there's any area in your life where you feel this lingering thread of unworthiness, that is an area where your soul is fractured. Your soul has not come into your body yet. Because when the full radiance of your soul is living in your body, there's not an ounce or shred or resonance or anywhere in your fields a lingering story of unworthiness. Which means that really reclaiming our worth here is a deep, profound spiritual devotion. Right? It's the real return to love, which is bringing in soul integration. Right? Soul integration is the process of becoming more conscious of yourself beyond just your three-dimensional body. Right? Your body, your mind, your emotions. Becoming aware of your higher self and integrating and bringing it into your body. Becoming so radiant, so alive, so worthy, so in your dharma that none of this stuff shows up anymore. And our body is a very important key piece to this, right? All of this has to land in our body, because if it is not embodied, if it's not truly shifted cellularly in the body, it is this, you can feel it, right? You can sense when someone is not embodied in what they are teaching. And what ends up happening, if you've ever launched something and shared something where you were like, this is what I'm going to be helping you with, and you weren't fully embodied in it yet, what does life do? It gives you lesson after lesson after lesson on whatever it is you're teaching in order to show you, hey, this is not embodied for you yet. Right? And those are the initiation to help you to embody the wisdom that you are saying you are offering. Right? Because life is beautiful and poetic, and we truly can only impact change on others when we have changed within ourselves, right? Because we can't change, I can't change you. I can only do that work within my cells, within my body, within my spirit. And then through that, I become an open field of resonance for others to do that same work. Right? This is that co-creative field that we get to play in. Right? So when we have these awakenings and these realizations, that is amazing. That is the first step, right? Step one is the recognition, the awakening. Step two then is got to go into the body. This is where the magic, this is where the medicine lives, right? It's very interesting even when you see, all women are a part of the sisterhood of the rose, right? This is the divine feminine oracle space. All women, truly all beings, right? All feminine energy is that sisterhood of the rose. And there's a lot of sharing of the sisterhood of the rose and welcoming people into this space without actually doing the embodiments of the deep immersions with rose medicine that we used to do in the temples, where we would literally fast on just rose for months on end and have these realizations in our body, because it's such a potent medicine for different aspects of our body. So we can see how in different spaces in this collective field there is a lack of the medicine going deep down to the body. And this is why when we go through these journeys, sign up for these courses, launch these programs, whatever it is, still these lingering threads are showing up for us. That's the one commonality in a lot of your welcome introductions in this group was, I've been working on this for a really long time and it's still showing up. And I could say that same thing, really, for a very long time until it landed and got and touched into these deeper layers of the body. This is why it's so important that we understand that until our marrow is rich and alive and our plasma of our body is drenched in soul wealth, these stories will still show up. This is also why worthy is not a learning space. You will learn here inside of the free Facebook group. This is where I'm going to share the lessons, right? Inside Worthy, the program that we start on the 9th, that is the paid aspect of this community. That is where we do the practices. 22 live calls of deep embodiment practices, going into our blood, going into our bone marrow, actually doing the work of steps 1, 2, 3, 4 together. Because that is where we touch and transform and alchemize, truly free this virus of unworthiness from our genetic makeup that was passed forward to us for a very, very, very long time. So my loves, I hope that this transmission has been valuable, that you have learned something new, that there is a new insight that has come through. If you have questions that you wish to ask, please do pop them in the comments below. And let me see here before I hop off. Okay, no questions so far. So be sure to have a watch of this video. Feel it, sense it, taste it, touch it. If you are ready and willing and wanting to do this work together instead of worthy and having the space to actually practice, then I invite you to come into Worthy with us. We start October 9th. There is a new payment plan that is available, so you can get access for as low as $275. And we are going to be doing the deep, deep work in a really beautiful, sacred space that is going to be working on all of this, everything that we mentioned, all 4 of the steps, and in a way that allows us to be tapping into the magnetic radiance of our true worth. So, sending you all so much love and appreciation. I will see you again live real soon.